I spent 10 years flying F-16s. I was a mission commander and instructor during that time as well. And when I left active duty, I got into motorsports. And what I realized then, because I was into computers, was that simulation helped me in my motorsports just as it did in aviation. What I found is that the same training techniques and doctrine that we used to train fighter pilots, the fighter pilots that I trained, works very well for motorsports. So I took that same program and I adapted it to motorsports. It's important, in order to get the most out of the simulator training, to treat it as real as possible. Treat this as, the same kind of consequences, even though you can press reset if you need to, but you need to treat those consequences as real as possible. That's the way to get the most out of it. So if you're racing on your simulator and all you do is race and the only feedback you get is where you finished, you're really missing the very key parts to it. And that is learning from going back and looking at the replay and learning from analyzing the telemetry and seeing what you did well as what you did not so well and what you can improve. I actually have what you can call a grade sheet that breaks down everything that goes into driving into about 50 different parameters. Things like throttle technique, braking technique, slipstreaming. Are you using the entire width of the track? Let's back it off about 10% and let's work on finding the edges of the track. Okay. So you're using the entire track. So what I want you to do is touch tires on the edges of the track, on the outside, on the inside. On the inside at the apex, on the outside at turn in. Usually it takes a driver about 15 to 45 minutes to get accustomed to driving the simulator. Treat it as a new vehicle. And once you get accustomed to it and you learn how to drive that new vehicle, then you can use it as a training tool. There are different levels of training that you can get from a simulator. If you can start out with just turning hot laps and learn the track. The next level you can take it up is you can do specific drills, braking exercises, cornering exercises, turning exercises. Then you can get into racing or qualifying, and then a full race weekend where you're racing against a full grid of either computer opponents or other racers online. And then you can take it to a level above that, where now you're working on your racecraft and your tire and fuel strategy and your pit strategy. You can race in the wet, you can race at night, you can race in the wet at night. Another great way to use the simulator is as a training tool for setups and what we would call race engineering. You can take the car on the track, turn a few laps, come back in to the garage, make a few changes to the springs, the dampers, the aero settings, the gearing ratios, your brake bias, your camber, caster, and toe settings. And then you can go right back out on the track and immediately have feedback on how those changes affected the handling of the car. That in and of itself is a very powerful training tool, for example, for youth coming from karts into cars that want to learn what changes the race engineer is making to the suspension or the aero or the other settings and what effects they'll have on the car. It helps with the driver race engineer communication, flow of communication there, flow of information. Using the simulator to learn a track is just the tip of the iceberg. It's like taking a computer and using it as a calculator. You can get so much more out of it. There's so much more power in your hands with the simulator. So it's the level of detail and the level of realism and the level of training that you want to get out of a simulator. It's far beyond hot lapping.